right now, and I will say greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Lou with us from kind of the northern or central California area, and he's going to share a dream with us. As per my usual process, I'm just going to sit quietly and listen while Lou goes through it beginning to end, and then we'll see what we can do to make sense of it. So I'll turn it over to you whenever you're ready. Let's hear what you got.
Okay. So I think that I was back in high school, but it was like, I've moved a lot of different schools in my life, and it felt like the building was like a combination of a lot of different, I went to 4 different high school programs. And it felt like a combination. But the students that were around me were from one school, and usually, it was from the school I went to my sophomore year, and usually they, I don't usually. I have a lot of dreams where I'm back in school, but I don't remember a lot where I'm at this school. So it's interesting, but it was also very much so like my middle school, and because the students at this school, my sophomore year, it was like kind of a big school. There's a lot of kids, but I went to a small Catholic middle school where there's just one class per grade, and everyone went to the same classes. So it was just like 30 kids who would walk together to the same classes, and it felt like that, except it was like 1,000 people rushing into their now it's coming. Now I'm remembering this. Okay, so wasn't everyone going to the same rooms at the same time? But it was like the hallways were constantly crowded, like really, really crowded, with people like rushing to go to their rooms. And they were all they all knew exactly where to be at the same time. And like I had this sense of like, I'm coming back. It didn't feel like it was like a normal day. Like, oh, this is just a day where I'm going to school. I felt like for some reason I'm going back to school, even though I graduated already. I'm going back, and so it was like kind of out of place. I was like not really caring about like, I didn't even know. Everyone else was like knowing what their schedule was, knowing where to be. I didn't even know which room to be in. And I remember like I like walked into one room, and it was like a bunch of like kids who were like clearly younger than me and not my grade. So I was like, oh, this is probably not where I'm supposed to be. So I like sat down. I sat down for a second until I realized that, and then I walked out. But there were so many students, like it's kind of ridiculous. And then, so I don't think I ever figured out where I was supposed to be, but I know I ended up sitting in some classroom, unsure of like whether or not it was mine, but also not really caring, because I was like feeling like, well, I'm not even in high school anymore. It like I don't know, it didn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, and when I did end up staying in one room, it was like I could recognize some of the students that were around me as my old classmates from my sophomore year. But I still felt like kind of out of place there. And like I remember that like I was talking to these two other students, and I was wearing um I was I was wearing this like I'll just show you.
Okay, take your time. I love visual aids.
I was wearing this shirt that I never wear. This.
Oh,
And this kid was like, why are you dressed like that? Like trying to be like, I don't think he was like bullying me. He was just like making conversation that like jokingly bullying. I think it's more common in my generation because I was never bullied, but I feel like people bully each other jokingly
yeah.
more.
Teasing?
Teasing, yeah.
Gotcha.
And I was like, I don't know, I just like to dress like a farmer. That's what I said. I like to look like a farmer. And they laughed, but it felt like there was like a certain like they don't really get it. um that's as much as I remember right now, I think.
Okay. Fair enough. That's plenty. Yeah. And as I said, through my usual process, we get so much more. We always do. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. And anyone watching the videos out there, don't worry if you can't remember every little detail. If you think you're coming in unprepared, everyone's forget something. Everyone's unprepared. We just do the thing. We talk. It's no big deal. So after listening and just getting as many notes as I could, I want to go back through it and try and chronologically, mostly for my understanding, am I seeing and understanding what you experienced as much as I can, but also to maybe help fill in some gaps and new things will probably occur to you. So you had the feeling of being in a high school that was kind of an amalgamation or combination of multiple different schools that you had attended?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like I don't know, the hallways looked like my middle school, but the rooms looked like my sophomore year in high school.
Okay. That's a good detail, actually. You said the hallways looked like they were the middle school hallways, but the rooms looked like
Like
sophomore.
Yeah. And in my sophomore year, I went to this really it was I won't say the name of it, but it was like college prep, like really preppy kids. It was a charter school. Like everyone was a nerd. And like there was a lot of homework. It was that kind of school.
Gotcha. Maybe they higher expectations, higher quality, a little more demanding of the
I don't
students.
even say higher quality, I just say higher amount.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
More.
Yeah, quality is a subjective term on my part.
Yeah.
Sometimes I reach for the wrong words. I do also something I call rattling doorknobs. I ask a question, you don't have an answer, you don't remember. That door doesn't come open. I'll go down to the next one. It's no big deal.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I call it. Sometimes you rattle a doorknob, pops open, and there's a whole new path down there. Sometimes the door doesn't open, or it opens and there's a brick wall. What are you going to do? I love my metaphors and visual imagery. Okay, so the first thing you can remember in the dream, like you fell asleep, the first dream image is you're in those hallways. That's where it starts. Or did you start approaching the building from the outside?
Well, it was this morning that I had the dream.
Okay.
So
it was the best. Totally fresh. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah.
But I guess the first memory is like being in the crowds and like walking, like trying to figure. I think so.
Okay.
Just trying to like figure out where I'm supposed to, what class I'm supposed to go to.
Whether or not that's the first thing that actually happened in the dream, if that's the first thing you can remember, we start there. That's all good. Yeah. So you're in these crowded hallways that make you they remind you of this, like my middle school. It's what it looks like. So that's maybe where that visual representation comes from. And the hallways are crowded, and you said whether or not you could count every individual head, the feeling was of like thousands, like jam packed, people go in every direction.
Yeah, because like everyone knew where they were going and they're rushing to their next class, and like it was very orchestrated, like very like it was like like traffic, like I don't know.
And it was no, I think I get the idea. It wasn't a haphazard mosh pit mishmash. It was like orderly, like they knew where they were going, and they were, even if they were crossing each other's paths, they were going. It was all almost coordinated.
Yeah.
Okay. Being back in that memory, do you remember anything about the students that stands out? Any way they were dressed? Any other behavior? Any persons you might have recognized?
Now that I think of it, they were, that school, my sophomore year school had uniforms, and they were just wearing casual clothes.
Okay.
And what else? I don't know how significant that is, but
something I wouldn't have thought to ask. How were they dressed? Like uniforms or not. So the kids in the hallways, not in uniforms.
And like the whole dream, they're casually dressed, and
okay,
I guess, I don't know. It's kind of. Can you repeat the question?
No, yeah. So you're just kind of putting yourself back in that hallway, and you're watching this kind of orderly progression of just so many people, and they're rushing. Like they know exactly where they're going, and they're moving fast. They're not walking slow. Like they don't care where they're going. They're getting there as quickly and as efficiently as possible. My question was, did anything else stand out about the students themselves? Behaviors, appearance, anything? Rattling that doorknob. Maybe it doesn't come open. That's okay.
I get what you're asking, and I feel like there was. I just can't. I don't know how to.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah, we'll come back to it, or we don't. Maybe it's not important. Anything unusual about the hallways? I mean, other than it looked like your middle school, so there's that visual reference, but just anything that kind of stood out, kind of if you go back in your mind and look at it,
the lights were kind of weird. Like some of the lights were like not working, and some were like, it was kind of like, it was like the lights were not, some lights were working, some weren't, so some like it was kind of dimly lit, and like the lights were like kind of ugly, like they're like I don't want to say creepy, but like it was just kind of like it looked badly maintained, the lights, I guess.
Interesting.
Like kind of old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of dim.
Okay, so it was not bright. I mean, this just throwing this out there as an example. Like sometimes if I would ask that question, people would say, "Now that you mention it, there was no ceiling. I could see right up to the sky through these hallways." Something like that would just suddenly occur to people. But now you're talking about the lights, and that's also, I think, may or may not be significant. But there's something to that.
I think I've noticed in a lot of my other dreams, the lights or the weather is really significant.
Kind of features prominently or has some kind of, and I'm sure it may have some meaning here, whether or not we can figure it out, or maybe later on, if you help me come back, like at some point I'll ask you, did I miss anything? Do you have any connections yourself? You can come back to that and say about those lights, sometimes I go back after I'm done recording and I read my notes and I'm like, why didn't I ever ask about that? So anyway, it's not all on you, but it's probably going to happen. Let me see if I can tear a new page out here. This is one of my struggles. I'm kind of obsessed with tearing the page straight at the top and not. Hey, success. Woo. I don't know why that makes me so happy. It's like a test of skill, I guess. Okay, so you're in the hallways, and we probably don't have to dwell there for too long, but your first observation was they know where they're going. They're going there as efficiently as possible because they want to get where they're going quickly. They know their destination. What was your feeling at that moment? Were you just standing there as everyone's moving around you, or were you also in motion?
I was kind of like wandering. I don't really remember how I like ended up in one of the classrooms.
Sure.
Or how I picked it. Because like I don't remember much of a transition.
Right.
I don't remember walking into there.
And there may not be one. That's why I want to stop you before we get there, because that's the next thing I want to focus on. But in that hallway, you're wandering because what's your feeling or sense of what you're doing or what's happening?
I guess I just feel like I'm in school, so I should. And I guess I'm making decisions based on like my environment, or like based on like what I think I should be doing based on my environment. I'm like, oh, this is what's going on now. Okay, this is what everyone else is doing. Okay.
Okay.
I should probably go to class, something like that.
So your thought was, or what was running through your mind in the dream was, oh, I'm in school. I should probably do something in this environment.
Yeah.
So you're trying to make a decision about what to do, and you're wandering around. In that decision-making process, do you have the feeling that because I'm in school, I'm supposed to be in a class somewhere? I should probably look for my class?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't remember walking into a specific room, just kind of there was an almost an automatic transition.
Yeah. I remember sitting down in the chair.
Do you remember where you sat down in the class? Was it somewhere near the front left, in the middle, back right?
It was kind of like towards the back left corner. If it's like the door is here, and then like the teacher teaches next to the door.
Yeah.
And like then I would be sitting in the back, or towards the back,
furthest away from the door.
Yeah, because that's whenever I have a choice of where I sit, that's usually where I sit. I guess I always sit in the back, in the corner, or not always, but in the area. I don't like sitting in the front.
Gotcha. But there's also, I don't know how much anime you watch. That's almost the corner of the room where they put most of the protagonists, and the interesting people sit in that back corner. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have blue hair too, or something. Not actually.
I was gonna say in the dream, maybe you did. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's if that is the imagery in the dream, then it may mean something. Okay, so the next thing you know, you're sitting in a classroom, and this is, you'd say the rooms reminded you more of your sophomore year. So now that you're in the class environment, you're sitting in this kind of corner furthest from the door, diagonally, and away from the blackboard. Do you remember anything unique or interesting about the people sitting around you, the chair you were sitting in, anything written on the blackboard?
Yeah, I'm thinking, because I sat in the room with the kids who were clearly younger than me, and then I left. But right now I'm thinking about the second room where I recognized.
Well, let's do that first room. So the first room you found was kids, and you actually went all the way into the room and sat down? Or did you look at the kids?
I don't remember if I sat down, but I walked around for a second. And then, decided to leave because it wasn't. I was like, this isn't right.
So the first room you went into, you saw that the kids were too young. So at least you walked in the door and you got a look at the kids in the room. How young were they relative to you in the dream?
Probably like they looked like middle schoolers.
We're talking
But
like
they
12,
didn't
13,
they
14.
didn't look like people I didn't recognize them.
Sure.
At least I don't think so.
Okay. And the thought that occurred to you at that moment is, I don't belong here. This is not my class. It can't be. These kids are too young. Okay.
Yeah. They're clear. It was like clearly they're all in the same class as my class.
Okay. Yeah.
Just like kind of awkward. Oops.
For sure. Okay. Then, do you remember anything about? Did you have a feeling associated with that? Like, well, anything. I don't want to put suggestions in your head. When that moment when you realized I'm in the wrong class, this is not where I'm supposed to be. Any emotions connected to that experience?
I guess, like, I feel like I should have been like nervous, but I wasn't. I just felt like more like kind of like careless, like kind of like this is ridiculous. I don't even.
So there was no sense of,
what's
say,
going on.
embarrassment of walking into the wrong classroom. That maybe
It was like a little awkward, but it felt like a joke. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know why. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Good deal. And then do you remember leaving the class, walking back into the hallways, or?
Yeah. I don't remember, again, I don't remember that transition,
Okay.
but
So then just another
I
transition.
know I went out back into the halls and they were also still like busy,
Okay.
but a little less because more people were finding their rooms. They're they're less. It was less crowded because it was more towards like the time the class started. You know what I mean? I was like starting to be close to getting late, I guess.
Okay.
But
So you left the middle school classroom kids and walked back out into the hallways, and it was visibly less crowded. People were finding their way, dispersing into the rooms, and it was observable that they had, most of them, gone to their destination.
yeah,
Okay.
um,
And that's when you wandered into the next room, or did something else happen in the hallway?
I don't. Yeah, I don't remember too well, but I know I ended up in the next room.
Okay, and then that was the second room where you went into the back corner and sat down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you sat in a chair in the back, and this is where I was starting to ask you, did you notice anything about the chair you were sitting in, anything outside the windows, anything on the blackboard, anything notable about the kids around you? I think you might have frozen just a
Well, I
little bit. Go
recognized
ahead.
like some of the people sitting around me, and that's when I started talking about me. We started talking about my shirt. Um,
And so that was the first interaction you recall having with the kids next near you in that corner of the
Yeah.
room. Did you initiate that with them, or did they turn to you and say, "Hey, what's with the shirt"? How did that interaction kind of play out?
I don't entirely remember,
Okay.
but I think I was definitely like at least giving like some kind of like body language to initiate a conversation. I guess I wanted to talk to them.
It's almost like whatever you were doing, you could say the aura you put off was, "I'm open to communication."
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like,
You weren't kind
yeah.
of closed off sitting in the corner like, "Just fucking leave me alone."
No.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
And it felt normal to have them talk to you. Not normal, but like natural.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was definitely still unsure of whether or not I was in the right class.
Okay.
But at the same time, I was like kind of a little bit careless about
Okay.
it.
Still in that state of mind where you weren't suffering tremendous anxiety about being lost. You
Yeah,
were kind of
I
comfortable
was
with
at
the
least
process.
in an appropriate room to be
Okay.
in, where I wouldn't be like spotted. I wouldn't be singled out.
You had that sense of blending in as you were sitting in that room of
Yeah,
like, at least
yeah,
this is closer to the right place.
yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry if I get quiet sometimes. I can't write as fast as I can think.
Yeah, nice. Me neither.
Okay. And then that's when one of them, do you remember if it was a male or female student that spoke to you and asked about the
Yeah,
shirt?
it was just boys that talked to me in the classroom.
It was all boys in the classroom?
No, it was
There
a
was.
mix, but that I was talking to it was just boys.
Okay.
Uh,
I didn't know if that was your experience with I think you said it might have been a Catholic school or something like that. Sometimes they do the gender
yeah, but
segregation.
I've never gone to a all one gender school. It's always been.
Gotcha.
And it was mixed in the church.
Okay, and so one of them spoke up and asked you about the shirt. Now that you're kind of back in that moment in your mind, do you remember how they phrased it? You did try to give me a little bit of a quote, but how would you?
I don't remember
describe it?
exactly how they phrased it, but it was like kind of like a roast. Like they were roasting me.
And I mentioned the word teasing earlier. It's like he was giving you a hard time, but it was friendly.
Yeah.
Like you got that sense from the way it was spoken, and or the aura of the person was, this is not meant to cause harm, but we're gonna kind of make fun of you a little bit because why not?
Yeah.
Okay. And they asked about the shirt, and the shirt you were wearing was that kind of yellowish plaid button up.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that style of dress differ from what you saw the other kids wearing? What were they wearing?
I think the guy who started the conversation was wearing like a t-shirt. And like or I don't entirely remember. But I guess he's wearing a t-shirt, I think he's wearing like basketball shorts.
Okay, so he was like dressed down, casual, and you were more like this button-up
I guess.
type of thing.
He might have been wearing a polo shirt. I don't remember.
That's fine. It doesn't have to be exact. I appreciate you trying to find. Yeah.
I'm trying.
But they were definitely not wearing button-ups.
What if they were in uniform and I showed up not? But I don't think that.
I think if that,
funny.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, you would definitely stick out like this is, well, you're not in a uniform. And I think you would probably remember that detail if that's really what it was, because that would probably be significant. That would be like, it's almost like showing up to class naked. You're clearly out of place and in an embarrassing situation, and you're not dressed appropriately according to the standards. I think if that was the case, it would probably stick out like a sore thumb to you. But it is interesting that you were dressed differently. There is this sense of difference, but it's a closer match. Why not wear a button-up shirt? It's just out of curiosity, is that something you bought, say, for job interviews recently, or is that sometimes you wear a button-up just because?
I would say that's more. I don't really wear that shirt that often because I think it's kind of ugly.
Yeah.
But I like it. I would say it's more casual. I don't think I'd wear that to a job interview.
You would not?
No, I think it's more casual. The shirt and the dream is more casual.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
For me, at least.
Yeah. No, that's and good. It's just there's no right answer. It's just what it feels like to you. What's typical for you. What happens next after they give you a little bit of a hard time? And you mentioned that they tease you. They say, "What's with the shirt, man?" And your answer was, "I like to look like a farmer," or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you were thinking or feeling as you delivered that line? Like, was it meant to, oh, I'm going to give them a goofy answer? Or was it more, this is the reason, this is the actual reason I put the shirt on, because I want to look like a farmer?
Probably a little bit of both.
Okay.
Like being like kind of teasing myself, like a little bit, I guess,
Okay.
or trying to be honest, but in like a joking way, I guess. And I guess I was also trying to like act like I knew what I was doing, or like that I knew I was supposed to be there.
Okay.
Like like play off like any like I didn't want to seem like I didn't know whether or not I was supposed to be in there.
Gotcha. That is an interesting thing. I'm just gonna make a note there. So, was there further interaction with those kids, or at that point you decided, nah, this isn't my class either, and you got up and left? What happened
No,
next?
I think I woke up.
After that, when you woke up?
Yeah, but I kind of slept in.
Okay.
So it was like a gradual waking up. I don't really remember what happened after that.
You do remember, and I just look back at the notes there too, that their response to your statement was to laugh, but you described it as they laughed in a way that made you feel like they didn't really get the joke. They didn't understand what you were really saying.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Are you able to say a little bit more about that? I'm not sure what I'm asking there, but it feels like a little bit more full description of how you felt about their response and what their response meant to you. I don't know.
I guess that's a little hard to describe right now.
For sure. No, these things are not always easy on the tip of our tongue. Maybe if I ask more questions about it, I think there is something in that. Did you have the feeling of being misunderstood? When you say they didn't get it, is like you intended to communicate something by the way you phrased the joke, and they did not understand that intent?
It felt like there was like a little bit of a wall of like there was like a limit to how much we could like understand each other.
Yeah.
Like we can talk like this, but that's about it. And like I'm gonna go on with my day and not see this person again.
Okay. And a sense of kind of also just letting it go, like, well, I tried and they laughed and that's good enough. And you felt accepted by the group, and they, there was nothing rejecting or unfriendly about the interaction.
I mean, enough for the scenario.
Yeah.
Enough to be sitting in a classroom like that.
Yeah. And what was your feeling of yourself, your emotional response when they teased you, and when they and then again when they laughed but didn't get it? What do you think about that?
I guess I don't know. I guess like this is the. I guess like I don't know. It felt like just like an exchange you'd have with a stranger, and then that's the end of it.
Superficial? Does that word seem right?
Yeah, kind of superficial.
Okay. Good deal. And then that's the end of part 2, and that always takes longer. I mean, I think the dream took like 4 minutes to explain. The going back through it again took like a half an hour.
Really? Oh, wow.
Right? I know it goes pretty quick, right? And you never know. Like I've gone through some dreams with people where the going back through it took an hour, just because there were so many details to kind of pick through, and I never know. Maybe at some point in the future I'll get a lot better at this and I can squeeze it down, but 10,000 hours working on it. So before I get into making any suggestions, I like to ask people, now that we've been through it once and a second time in a lot more detail, did you have any light bulb moments? Any, I get it. What may have occurred to you? Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't entirely know what you mean, but I remember one detail that I didn't
Sure.
include was I don't remember which classroom it was in, but I remember recognizing the teacher as my middle school English teacher.
Do you think it was in the class with the kids, with the younger kids?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember which one it is. It might have been, but I don't.
Okay, fair enough. That would be consistent with the imagery, saying just to give you that full experience of this is what this room is. Do you get it? Do you see all the indicators? Mm-hmm. But it would be a different thing if it was the middle school teacher teaching in the sophomore class and out of place. I think if it was out of place like that, it would have stood out to you more and said, yeah, he was in the wrong room, or why would he be teaching this class? So it was in the other room. No, what I mean about light bulb moments is sometimes as you're describing something, you describe one thing and then you describe another thing and you go, when I put those two things together, suddenly it makes sense. Sometimes people do, sometimes people don't, but I like to ask about that before I get into making suggestions so I don't influence your own connections first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, do you mean like a light bulb of like what it might mean?
Yeah. Yeah, little eureka moments. I watch it on video sometimes. I see people's face and they do this. They go, oh, and bam, it comes to them. Something fits. You don't have to have an answer, but I like to ask first. So I don't know if anything comes to mind.
I think when you're asking me about like how I felt when I was interacting with the other students in the classroom, I felt like that wall that I was describing was very, I mean, it doesn't feel like I'm realizing something. I feel like I know that this is probably a reoccurring theme in my dreams.
Yeah, but now might be a good time because you'd mentioned earlier that you had this one dream just today, and it seems to be connected to other themes and other dreams. So what are those connections? Go ahead.
I guess it's kind of hard to describe, but I've for some reason, like I haven't had so many recently, but I used to like all the time have dreams where I was back in middle school specifically, and like I haven't spoken to any of those people in years, like a really long time.
Yeah.
So I couldn't describe the significance of that or what it means, but it's just, I guess, to me, kind of interesting, probably boring to other people because they don't.
Maybe.
Like just
well, I think there is something there, especially with, so general theory on reoccurring dreams. Those images, the places, the experiences, maybe even the people, they especially with reoccurring dreams where you get the same type of thing in multiple instances, it tends to represent a theme, an idea, an ongoing unresolved thought process that you're trying to reach some kind of resolution to, and it's your brain's returning to that imagery because it just hasn't gotten an answer yet. So I think there is something to that. It's going to be central to something you're dealing with, something you're trying to process or make sense of.
Yeah.
What are some of your general thoughts about your life now compared to middle school, or experiences from that age that maybe you haven't fully come to terms with, resolved, processed? What do you think?
Well, I guess some of the feelings of like that I described in the dream, because I feel like I could have this dream a long time ago, but it would be like it felt like I was having this dream, this theme in the dream again, but like as an older person looking back, but not because like I kept saying when I said I felt like I should be nervous, but it felt like a joke. Like I feel like I would experience something not exactly this, but something maybe kind of like this a long time ago, and I would be like, oh God, I need to get to my class, and I need to, oh, I can't relate to these people. I feel so out of place, like
Yeah.
something like that.
I think that
But
is a significant difference. The idea that in maybe past dreams you would have felt that panic, awkwardness, embarrassment,
yeah,
judgment, and now you're like, I'm so over this. I am now someone removed from that experience to sufficiently that it doesn't cause me
yeah.
anxiety anymore. I could be in the wrong
But
place,
I
and
was still in the same scenario though. It was just my interpret. It was just like my how I felt about it was like um I don't know, like more accepting of and less trying to like do something about it,
yeah.
kind of.
And I mentioned that the word judgment specifically because a lot of what we're nervous about is that other people will reject us or that other people will think we've done something wrong. But if you're more confident in yourself, if you've moved beyond feeling the judgment of a specific type of scenario, then returning to that scenario in your mind, you don't feel the anxiety that someone's gonna tell you you're doing something wrong. You're like, yeah, probably. I'm very obviously out of place in this middle school classroom. But now I'm old enough and so far beyond actually being that person in that scenario that now it no longer has that emotional impact on you in the same way it would. I think that is something significant. I don't know what you make of it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting.
For sure. And you're not you don't have to have more to say on it. If you do, that's fine. If you don't,
Yeah, no, it's just like I don't know. I'll have to think about that more
sure.
for for future dreams.
Yeah, well, very often, and you may find this too. Just talking about this experience and this imagery, and getting some more words associated with, getting a little more clarity on how you feel about it after the fact, it should change the nature of these dreams going forward. You may find yourself in some similar scenarios, but your experience will be different. Or I've had people where like they have a recurring dream until we talk about it, and then it never comes back. Like we talk about it and really look at it, and once they've made sense of it, it doesn't need to happen anymore because they've kind of got it. And that's usually what it is. This was why they say dreams are trying to tell you something. It's not like the dream is a thing and it wants to communicate. It's your mind trying to make sense of something. And when you get that sense,
Yeah.
when it makes sense, you can put it down. Just the wheel spinning, just wrestling with a problem, with an idea. Well, I'll do this and go back to some of my notes here. So what stood out to me is you're in the hallways, and these hallways remind you of your middle school, and everyone else seems to know where they're going except you, and they're going there. They're pursuing their chosen goal, and that is specifically to get to class on time in a very efficient, effective manner with purpose. And I think there's something there in that idea that it seems like everyone around you has got their shit together. They know what they're doing, and here you are going, I'm lost. When you think of that idea, what comes to mind?
I mean, I think I definitely felt like that at my sophomore year of school, where everyone is so preppy and like did, and like I feel like that's how I felt throughout all of school and up until I graduated high school at least.
Okay.
And then yeah, I don't know, I was kind of a loner.
Fair enough. But that was when
Yeah.
you think of that experience, that kind of sounds like it sums it up. Like, God, just everyone else around me seems to have their shit together, and I'm not
hmm
sure what to do. Do you still feel that way today, or are you kind of
Um, she, yeah, yeah, I think that definitely
you look at
comes
peers
in.
your own age, and people are and they seem to be finding a path, or they appear to be walking a path with purpose, and
Yeah,
you're a little less decided on some of those issues?
yeah, um, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of emotional for me to be honest, but I think that's pretty relevant.
I think it is. I think that's probably
Um,
related to why you're having that dream imagery is the way you're feeling today, the way you were feeling when you went to bed last night is still
mm,
struggling with that issue of what am I doing here? What am I even doing? And why does it seem like everyone's got their shit together, but I'm lost? So that
yeah,
dream imagery comes back. Um,
yeah, yeah, if looking at it that way, I can connect it to some other themes that I've had, that I think I've had,
do
but
you want to say a little more on that, or
because this isn't really a reoccurring, like I have reoccurring dreams that are like a lot more specific, like specifically like being chased a
oh
lot
yeah,
for doing something bad, like really
okay,
bad that I don't remember doing, but
gotcha. Was that some of
like
the other
I'm
dreams
caught up
we were
in it.
thinking of maybe talking about, and then you had this one?
Well, I I kind of I want to come back to you another time and tell you
Yes,
something about that.
we should probably do one dream at a time. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it's beyond me to put them all together. Yeah, I have to do
yeah. I
multiple.
wouldn't want to try to put it all together right now.
That's fine. No,
But
but it
and
is.
I
Go ahead.
want to. I'll probably have another dream where I'm being chased,
Yeah,
and I'll tell you about it.
that's another theme that it definitely, if it seems to be reoccurring, there's something going on there that is probably
Yeah,
important to you. Yeah. But for this one specifically, you said, yeah, you're still having kind of that. Is it okay to ask how old you are?
I'm 19.
19. I,
Yeah.
once upon a time, and this is just almost completely tangential and kind of embarrassing to me, but I thought of a clever book title of uh, The Great Depression of the 1920s. That was the title, but it was written 19/20. And
I see.
it was about, the idea was to talk about why people struggle at that age and why it's depressing to confront the world and find a place in it. And you
Mm,
feel, and I'm never going to write this book. I have book ideas all the time. Sitting down to write is just beyond me. I can't focus that long. I can have an hour-long conversation about a dream. I can't take 2 months and write a book. It's never going to happen. But the general idea is, it is a period of pathfinding. You're looking at all of these options, and you're like, I can go anywhere. I can probably do anything. What do I want, and where the fuck am I going? And no, really, nobody
yeah.
knows. You're in a
Yeah,
perfect place.
that's definitely relevant. I think that's definitely part because like lately I've just been feeling like that. Like I hate online school. I hate being so bored and not knowing what I'm gonna do with college. Not knowing what I'm gonna do in the future. It's like I think that's definitely relevant.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the greatest failures of our education system currently is a lot of kids come out of it with basic skills, but not a lot of purpose. And not that I want schools to
Yeah,
be focused on telling people what they
yeah.
should do, but helping them identify options, what they're good at, what they enjoy. Like if I could make a
Mhm.
living doing this, I probably say this every day. Hi, contribute to my Patreon. I would love to just do nothing but talk to people about their dreams for a living. This I love. This is not even work. This is just fun. So I wish I had known I could even try this 10 years ago. But yeah, that's the kind of thing.
You definitely could, to be honest.
You could what?
You could. I think you could.
Oh, I could. Thank you. I hope so. I'm giving it 110% to see if this actually works. Maybe it catches on, maybe it doesn't. But I get to feel good about, I tried. I gave it my 100%. It didn't work out, or it did. But that's the first step, is identifying what do I want. It's like any journey. What is it when you pull up Google Maps? Please enter destination. Otherwise, you have no path. Where are you going?
Yeah.
I love that metaphor too. It's like you can go anywhere you want, but you got to decide where you want to be. And it's okay not to know. That's the process, is thinking about what do I want, and then you eventually pick it. And I think that's part of what this dream is telling you too, is about that. But I think the dream is also about, so the first classroom you went into was full of the kids in middle school, and you're in the hallways and they're middle school, and you're in the classroom and it's middle school kids, and immediately you feel out of place, but you're not anxious or embarrassed about it. You feel like it's a joke. My thought on that was, this is part of yourself saying, I don't belong here anymore. This is not my place anymore. This is not where I am currently in my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, because it makes a lot of sense, because I wasn't anxious about it. I was just kind of like, this is like letting it pass, letting it go.
Letting it go.
Just,
yeah.
Okay, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's not what this is. Next, let's go to the next thing.
Yeah. And
yes.
And you could have had a very different dream. You could have had a dream that said you sat down in that room, and even though you were obviously much older, you felt like you were trapped in that room and couldn't get out for whatever reason. Your emotions were holding you in place. No, but this dream said very immediately, look at this place. You remember this place? This is a place. This is not your place. Get out of here. And you moved on. And so you're literally putting it in your past, moving beyond that experience and those emotions or ideas. And you moved on to another classroom that had peers your age. It was very obviously more of the sophomore experience, so closer to who you currently are. And you sat down near people who were your friends, and you had an interaction with them that was a communication of their friendship. It was a communication of connection in a teasing manner. And so part of me would say that's your personality. You enjoy joking around with friends and giving each other a hard time.
You could say that.
A little bit. Yeah. No, that's good. And a lot of people do. It could very easily not have been your style. But if it is your style, then that was overall positive interaction with these folks. You sit down, you're wearing an interesting shirt, and your friends are going to tease you. What's with the shirt, man? It doesn't feel threatening to you. It didn't feel rejecting. They weren't like ostracized. He is not wearing the proper shirt. Yeah. But I also think that is relevant too. I think there's something there to the kids in the class, in the sophomore class, are dressed down, but you're dressed up a little bit. There's a feeling of separation there as well. Like, again, that you've moved on from that representation of what they are towards something else more professional.
Maybe. I don't know if necessarily I would like put myself above them, but I do feel like there was a sense of being in a different, like, not like area of maturity, but just in a different, like almost like speaking kind of a different language,
Yeah, you did mention that it's like they didn't understand you. There was a wall beyond which there was a disconnect. Yeah, and I think that's another example of what happened in the middle school classroom is these are not my people. I am not of them at this point. that's something else. And you have that same experience again in more of a microcosm way of like, definitely you're older, you're not in your sophomore year now. So you are in a sense above the representation of those kids at the time. So if we were to assume, that your self in the dream was your current self, and it was showing you again that difference that, and it's okay to, it sounds judgmental, I know, to say above them, but you are now more experienced, more knowledge, those different things. And I think there was something interesting in the idea of saying that you like to look like a farmer. And I don't know that means you literally want to be a farmer in life, but I like that concept. And maybe if we play around with the idea of the word farmer, a farmer is productive, produces literally produce, creates something people need, works hard for a living, gets dirty, sweaty, works with machinery or animals. There's when you think about what it means to be a farmer or to produce and hard work, do you relate any of those concepts to what you were trying to express?
I think definitely that's how I want to be. That's also, that comment is definitely something I'd say in real life.
Yeah.
But also, I think those are things that I value and want. I feel like my higher self wants me to go towards, you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like right now that's not at all where I'm at. Like, right now where I'm at is I'm just living in my apartment with my dad, doing online school, in quarantine, you know.
Yeah.
So, going to the grocery store every couple of days. You know, that's when I was in Oregon, I was on a farm.
Okay.
That's what I was doing in Oregon.
What did you like about that? Your face kind of lit up there, like that experience was good, meaningful, you took something away from it?
I mean, it was just kind of like a little adventure I went on for myself. I was like backpacking, hitchhiking over there. But like, I was just a farmhand on this little farm in Oregon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. I like it. It was like in the middle of nowhere in the forest.
Yeah. What did you find fun about that experience? What was the positive you experienced while you were there that you took away from it?
I worked like with plants. I planted things. I weeded the garden. I was outside. I was in a tent. I was constantly outside for a month. Showering in the creek and eating like really good organic food that I would make for myself. And the other guy working there. I don't know. That's just kind of what I like.
Yeah.
You know?
So being able to be outdoors, working with your hands and digging in the dirt. And did you get to see things you grew mature and then be able to harvest it?
I wasn't there long enough.
Not long enough. Okay.
Yeah.
But you were able to harvest other things that had been planted before?
Sorry?
Were you able to harvest things that...
Not really. This was like kind of like a new thing for me that I started just this summer.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, but it was an enjoyable experience, and yet you would do it again, and you came away from it feeling good about it. So I think that part of the dream is significant. There's something in that experience that gave you inspiration, showed you at least the hint of a path that you might want to follow, whether it is literally being a farmer or not, but something about that farming experience showed up in the dream to say, to tell you, not only are you not still in middle school, that's a long time ago, and all of these people that thought they knew where they were going while you were lost, you kept moving through the dream from that feeling of being lost to identifying areas where you're not supposed to be or don't want to be, to coming to a place closer to where you are now and comparing it to recent experience and saying, you know, I'm not here anymore either. I'm somewhere else. And showing you kind of a door opening on a new possibility. I don't know if any of this is making sense.
No, I really like that perspective a lot. I think that's a very good, kind of spot on, and um, I wouldn't have made that connection myself, but I think that you're right, and I think it makes me feel good to look at it that way.
Okay. Good deal. I mean, I wouldn't just blow smoke at you unless I believed it was true. But I think that's all in there. I think that's all. Whatever you were experiencing in the last week, or specifically yesterday, it brought these ideas to mind, and your brain said, "Let's process that while we sleep. What am I thinking? What do I need to understand?" Yeah, I think that's what happened. It makes sense to me anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, so these things don't have to drag on for 2 hours. If we came to something that makes sense and you feel good about it,
yeah.
I usually ask folks if there's any part of the dream that stands out that we just didn't focus on enough that seems important. You got nagging questions or a loose end somewhere. Maybe you do, maybe you don't.
Not really. No.
Okay.
That's about it. I think maybe I don't think it's super significant, but like if you're interested, I think the teacher is kind of a little bit.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Say something about the teacher. How now that you've got kind of that broad strokes picture of what the dream's about, how does he fit in?
Well, like when I was saying that I would be if I had this dream a long time ago, I would be like really anxious in the dream. I think the teacher would very much so contribute to that. Like I'd be scared of the teacher, what they'd say.
Yeah.
Or like being put in place by the teacher.
But your experience in this dream was you had no anxiety about the teacher either. You've moved so far beyond that judgment.
I felt like there was no authority over me by the teacher.
Yeah. And just that general feeling you were talking about as well of like knowing you were not in school anymore, even though you're physically in the dream in this school environment. It's like you've this idea of I've moved so far beyond this, it doesn't even affect me anymore. The idea of walking into, be like if you walked into a school today, you wouldn't want to bother anyone, but you wouldn't be nervous about, oh no, the teacher's going to judge me because I'm late. You're not in the class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good deal. The only other thing, and I actually remembered, is coming back around to the lights in the hallway, that you noticed them specifically.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's not mind-blowing, but now in this context too of, I think in this specific context, the lights being dim or broken or old would tend to enhance that feeling of being lost in the hallway. You can't see clearly. The lights are dim. Some of them are missing completely. I think it was just enhancing, enhancing the imagery of, remember how lost you felt. Remember how difficult it was to see the path and know where you were going. I think now that the lights make a little more sense in that way, unless you have a different idea.
No, I think I agree. I think it contributed to like it being kind of confusing, like orchestrated chaos of the hallway traffic.
Yeah, good deal. Well, I think we got something pretty interesting out of that process.
Much.
Oh, I enjoy it so much. I really do. Thank you for being here. If you'll hang out just like a couple of minutes afterwards, I'll say goodbye to everyone. Thanks for watching another episode of Dreamcast. Dreamcast. Keep saying Dreamcast. Got Sega on my mind. Dreamscapes. I'll get my own branding right one day. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Someday maybe I'll have a bug. Not yet, but anyway, thanks for listening. And thank you, Lou, for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.